Sub-Saharan Africa, Sub-Sahara, or non-Mediterranean Africa, is the area and regions of the continent of Africa that lie south of the Sahara. These include Central Africa, East Africa, Southern Africa, and West Africa. Geopolitically, in addition to the African countries and territories that are situated fully in that specified region, the term may also include polities that only have part of their territory located in that region, per the definition of the United Nations, UN. This is considered a non-standardized geographical region with the number of countries included varying from 46 to 48 depending on the organization describing the region, e.g. UN, WHO, World Bank, etc. The African Union, O, uses a different regional breakdown, recognizing all 55 member states on the continent, grouping them into 5 distinct and standard regions. The term serves as a grouping counterpart to North Africa, which is instead grouped with the definition of MENA, i.e. Middle East and North Africa, as it is part of the Arab world, and most North African states are likewise members of the Arab League. However, while they are also member states of the Arab League, the Comoros, Djibouti, Mauritania, and Somalia, and sometimes the Sudan, are all geographically considered to be part of Sub-Saharan Africa. Overall, the UN Development Programme applies the Sub-Saharan classification to 46 of Africa's 55 countries, excluding Djibouti, SADR, Somalia, and Sudan. Since around 3900 BCE, the Saharan and Sub-Saharan regions of Africa have been separated by the extremely harsh climate of the sparsely populated Sahara, forming an effective barrier that is interrupted only by the Nile in Sudan, though navigation on the Nile was blocked by the Sud and the river's cataracts. There is also an evident genetic divide between North Africa and Sub-Saharan Africa that dates back to the Neolithic. The Sahara pump theory explains how flora and fauna, including Homo sapiens, left Africa to penetrate Eurasia and beyond. African pluvial periods are associated with a wet Sahara phase, during which larger lakes and more rivers existed. Sub-Saharan Africa has a wide variety of climate zones or biomes. South Africa and the Democratic Republic of the Congo in particular are considered megadiverse countries. It has a dry winter season and a wet summer season. The Sahel extends across all of Africa at a latitude of about 10 degrees to 15 degrees north. Countries that include parts of the Sahara Desert proper in their northern territories and parts of the Sahel in their southern region include Mauritania, Mali, Niger, Chad, and Sudan. The Sahel has a hot semi-arid climate. South of the Sahel, a belt of savanna, the West and East Sudanese savannas, stretch from the Atlantic Ocean to the Ethiopian highlands. The more humid Guinean and northern Congolian forest, savanna mosaic lie between the savannas and the equatorial forests. The Horn of Africa includes hot desert climate along the coast, but a hot semi-arid climate can be found much more in the interior, contrasting with savanna and moist broadleaf forests in the Ethiopian highlands. Tropical Africa encompasses tropical rainforests stretching along the southern coast of West Africa and across most of Central Africa, the Congo, west of the African Great Lakes. In East Africa, woodlands, savannas, and grasslands are found in the equatorial zone, including the Serengeti ecosystem in Tanzania and Kenya. Distinctive Afromontane forests, grasslands, and shrublands are found in the high mountains and mountain ranges of eastern Africa, from the Ethiopian highlands to South Africa. South of the equatorial forests, the western and southern Congolian forest, savanna mosaic are transition zones between the tropical forests and the Miombo woodland belt that spans the continent from Angola to Mozambique and Tanzania. The Namib and Kalahari deserts lie in southern Africa, and are surrounded by semi-deserts including the Karoo region of South Africa. The bushveld grasslands lie to the east of the deserts. The Cape Floristic region is at Africa's southern tip, and is home to diverse subtropical and temperate forests, woodlands, grasslands, and shrublands. According to the 2022 revision of the World Population Prospects, the population of Sub-Saharan Africa was 1.1 billion in 2019. The current growth rate is 2.3%. The UN predicts for the region a population between 2 and 2.5 billion by 2050, with a population density of 80 per km2 compared to 170 for Western Europe, 140 for Asia and 30 for the Americas. Sub-Saharan African countries top the list of countries and territories by fertility rate with 40 of the highest 50, all with TFR greater than 4 in 2008. All are above the world average except South Africa and Seychelles. More than 40% of the population in sub-Saharan countries is younger than 15 years old, as well as in Sudan, with the exception of South Africa. Sub-Saharan Africa has several large cities. Lagos is a city in the Nigerian state of Lagos. The city, with its adjoining conurbation, is the most populous in Nigeria, and the second most populous in Africa after Cairo, Egypt. It is one of the fastest growing cities in the world, and also one of the most populous urban agglomerations. Lagos is a major financial center in Africa. This megacity has the highest GDP, and also houses Apapa, one of the largest and busiest ports on the continent. Dar es Salaam is the former capital of, as well as the most populous city in, Tanzania. It is a regionally important economic center. It is located on the Swahili coast. Johannesburg is the largest city in South Africa. It is the provincial capital and largest city in Gauteng, which is the wealthiest province in South Africa. While Johannesburg is not one of South Africa's three capital cities, it is the seat of the Constitutional Court. The city is located in the mineral-rich Witwatersrand range of hills, and is the center of a large-scale gold and diamond trade. Nairobi is the capital and the largest city of Kenya. The name comes from the Maasai phrase Anchor Nairobi, which translates to cool water, a reference to the Nairobi River which flows through the city. The city is popularly referred to as the Green City in the Sun. Other major cities in sub-Saharan Africa include Abidjan, Cape Town, Kinshasa, Luanda, Mogadishu, and Addis Ababa. The New Partnership for Africa's Development, NEPAD, is developing an integrated, continent-wide energy strategy. This has been funded by, amongst others, the African Development Bank, AFDB, and the EU Africa Infrastructure Trust Fund. These projects must be sustainable, involve a cross-border dimension and/or have a regional impact, involve public and private capital, contribute to poverty alleviation and economic development, and involve at least one country in sub-Saharan Africa. Renewable Energy Performance Platform was established by the European Investment Bank, the United Nations Environment Programme, with a 5-year goal of improving energy access for at least 2 million people in sub-Saharan Africa. It has so far invested around $45 million to renewable energy projects in 13 countries in sub-Saharan Africa. Solar power and hydropower are among the energy methods used in the projects. Radio is the major source of information in sub-Saharan Africa. Average coverage stands at more than a third of the population. Countries such as Gabon, Seychelles, and South Africa boast almost 100% penetration. Only 5 countries, Burundi, Djibouti, Eritrea, Ethiopia, and Somalia, still have a penetration of less than 10%. Broadband penetration outside of South Africa has been limited where it is exorbitantly expensive. Access to the internet via cell phones is on the rise. Television is the second major source of information. Because of power shortages, the spread of television viewing has been limited. 8% have television, a total of 62 million. But those in the television industry view the region as an untapped green market. Digital television and pay-for-service are on the rise. Infrastructure investments contributed to Africa's growth, and increased investment is necessary to maintain growth and tackle poverty. The returns to investment in infrastructure are very significant, with on average 30 to 40% returns for telecommunications, ICT, investments, over 40% for electricity generation and 80% for roads. The region is a major exporter to the world of gold, uranium, chromium, vanadium, antimony, coltan, bauxite, iron ore, copper, and manganese. South Africa is a major exporter of manganese as well as chromium. Agriculture represents 20% to 30% of GDP and 50% of exports. In some cases, 60% to 90% of the labor force are employed in agriculture. Most agricultural activity is subsistence farming. This has made agricultural activity vulnerable to climate change and global warming. As of right now, Sub-Saharan Africa has degraded land covering 1 million square kilometers. Biotechnology has been advocated to create high-yield, pest and environmentally resistant crops in the hands of small farmers. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is a strong advocate and donor to this cause. Biotechnology and GM crops have met resistance both by natives and environmental groups. Cash crops include cotton, coffee, tea, cocoa, sugar, and tobacco. Numerous crops have been domesticated in the region and spread to other parts of the world. These crops included sorghum, castor beans, coffee, cotton okra, black-eyed peas, watermelon, gourd, and pearl millet. Other domesticated crops included teff, ancet, African rice, yams, kola nuts, oil palm, and raffia palm. Low global literacy rates are concentrated in Sub-Saharan Africa, West Asia, and South Asia. However, literacy rates in Sub-Saharan Africa vary significantly between countries. The highest registered literacy rate in the region is in Zimbabwe, 90.7%, 2003 EST, while the lowest literacy rate is in South Sudan, 27%. Sub-Saharan African countries that have higher diversity has been found to lead to a poorer economy. In 1987, the Bamako Initiative Conference organized by the World Health Organization was held in Bamako, the capital of Mali, and helped reshape the health policy of Sub-Saharan Africa. The new strategy dramatically increased accessibility through community-based healthcare reform, resulting in more efficient and equitable provision of services. A comprehensive approach strategy was extended to all areas of healthcare, with subsequent improvement in the healthcare indicators and improvement in healthcare efficiency and cost. Life expectancy at birth in Sub-Saharan Africa increased from 40 years in 1960 to 61 years in 2017. Malaria is an endemic illness in Sub-Saharan Africa, where the majority of malaria cases and deaths worldwide occur. Routine immunization has been introduced in order to prevent measles. Onchocerciasis, river blindness, a common cause of blindness, is also endemic to parts of the region. African countries below the Sahara are largely Christian, while those above the Sahara, in North Africa, are predominantly Islamic. There are also Muslim majorities in parts of the Horn of Africa, Djibouti and Somalia, and in the Sahel and Sudan regions, the Gambia, Sierra Leone, Guinea, Mali, Niger, and Senegal, as well as significant Muslim communities in Ethiopia and Eritrea, and on the Swahili coast, Tanzania and Kenya. Mauritius is the only country in Africa to have a Hindu majority. In 2012, Sub-Saharan Africa constituted in absolute terms the third world's largest Christian population, after Europe and Latin America respectively. In 2012, Sub-Saharan Africa also constitute in absolute terms the third world's largest Muslim population, after Asia and the Middle East and North Africa respectively. Sub-Saharan Africa is diverse, with many communities, villages, and cities, each with their own beliefs and traditions. Traditional African societies are communal, they believe that the needs of the many far outweigh an individual needs and achievements. But Sub-Saharan music involves a lot of music with strings, horns, and very little polyrhythms. Music from the eastern Sahel and along the Nile, among the Nilo-Saharan, made extensive use of strings and horns in ancient times. Modern Sub-Saharan African music has been influenced by music from the New World, jazz, salsa, rhythm, and blues etc., vice versa being influenced by enslaved Sub-Saharan Africans. Popular styles are mbalax in Senegal and Gambia, high life in Ghana, zoblezo in Ivory Coast, makassa in Cameroon, sokos in the Democratic Republic of Congo, kizomba in Angola, and mbekanga in South Africa. New World styles like salsa, R&B/rap, reggae, and zouk also have widespread popularity. Like most of the world, Sub-Saharan Africans have adopted Western-style clothing. In some country like Zambia, used Western clothing has flooded markets, causing great angst in the retail community. Sub-Saharan Africa boasts its own traditional clothing style. Cotton seems to be the dominant material. Football, soccer, is the most popular sport in Sub-Saharan Africa. Sub-Saharan men are its main patrons. Major competitions include the African Champions League, a competition for the best clubs on the continent, and the Confederation Cup, a competition primarily for the national cup winner of each African country. The Africa Cup of Nations is a competition of 16 national teams from various African countries held every 2 years. South Africa hosted the 2010 FIFA World Cup, a first for a sub-Saharan country. In 2010, Cameroon played in the World Cup for the 6th time, which is the current record for a sub-Saharan team. In 1996, Nigeria won the Olympic gold for football. In 2000, Cameroon maintained the continent's supremacy by winning the title too. Momentous achievements for sub-Saharan African football. Famous sub-Saharan football stars include Abedi Pele, Emmanuel Adebayor, George Weah, Michael Essien, Didier Drogba, Roger Milla, Nwankwo Kanu, JJ Okocha, Bruce Grobbelaar, Samuel Eto'o, Kolo Toure, Yaya Toure, Sadio Mane, and Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. The most talented sub-Saharan African football players find themselves courted and sought after by European leagues. There are currently more than 1,000 Africans playing for European clubs. Sub-Saharan Africans have found themselves the target of racism by European fans. FIFA has been trying hard to crack down on racist outbursts during games. Rugby is also popular in Sub-Saharan Africa. The Confederation of African Rugby governs rugby games in the region. South Africa is a major force in the game and won the Rugby World Cup in 1995, 2007 and 2019. Africa is also allotted one guaranteed qualifying place in the Rugby World Cup. Boxing is also a popular sport. Battling Siki, the first world champion to come out of Sub-Saharan Africa. Countries such as Nigeria, Ghana, and South Africa have produced numerous professional world champions such as Dick Tiger, Hogan Bassi, Jerry Coetzee, Samuel Peter, Azuma Nelson and Jake Matlala. Cricket has a following. The African Cricket Association is an international body which oversees cricket in African countries. South Africa and Zimbabwe have their own governing bodies. In 2003, the Cricket World Cup was held in South Africa, first time it was held in Sub-Saharan Africa. Over the years, Ethiopia and Kenya have produced many notable long-distance athletes. Each country has federations that identify and cultivate top talent. Athletes from Ethiopia and Kenya hold, save for 2 exceptions, all the men's outdoor records for Olympic distance events from 800 m to the marathon. Famous runners include Haile Gebrselassie, Kenenisa Bekele, Paul Tergat, and John Cheruiyot Korir. The development of tourism in this region has been identified as having the ability to create jobs and improve the economy. South Africa, Namibia, Mauritius, Botswana, Ghana, Cape Verde, Tanzania, Rwanda, and Kenya have been identified as having well-developed tourism industries. Cape Town and the surrounding area is very popular with tourists. Only 6 African countries are not geopolitically a part of Sub-Saharan Africa: Algeria, Egypt, Libya, Morocco, Tunisia, and Western Sahara, claimed by Morocco. They form the UN subregion of Northern Africa, which also makes up the largest bloc of the Arab world. Nevertheless, some international organizations include Sudan as part of North Africa. Although a long-standing member of the Arab League, Sudan has around 30% non-Arab populations in the west, Darfur, Mawsalit, Zaghawa, far north, Nubian, and south, Kordofan, Nuba, and a largely Arabized native Nubian population that represents the majority at 70%, hence its inclusion in North Africa, but geographically and culturally Sudan is part of Sub-Saharan Africa. Mauritania and Niger only include a band of the Sahel along their southern borders. All other African countries have at least significant portions of their territory within Sub-Saharan Africa. List of Sub-Saharan African countries: Angola, Benin, Botswana, Burkina Faso, Burundi, Cameroon, Cape Verde, Central African Republic, Chad, Comoros, Congo, Brazzaville, Congo, Democratic Republic, Côte d'Ivoire, Djibouti, Equatorial Guinea, Eritrea, Ethiopia, Gabon, The Gambia, Ghana, Guinea, Guinea-Bissau, Kenya, Lesotho, Liberia, Madagascar, Malawi, Mali, Mauritania, Mauritius, Mozambique, Namibia, Niger, Nigeria, Réunion, Rwanda, São Tomé and Príncipe, Senegal, Seychelles, Sierra Leone, Somalia, South Africa, Sudan, Swaziland, Tanzania, Togo, Uganda, Western Sahara, Zambia, Zimbabwe. Thank you for watching this video.